I'm Gary Nickerson.
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
And this is Outside My Window. Rick Allwright and Candice Phibbs should be no strangers to anyone in our area and are the proud owners of Mile East Productions. They've been working in the business of event production, marketing, tourism, and business development for over 15 years, and they take great pride in producing high-quality events that exceed all expectations. From weddings to large conferences or trade shows and intimate parties to concerts and sporting events, they've worked with events of all shapes and sizes. Generally, behind the scenes on events like the Spring Living Show, Ribfest, and the recent curling championships, Rick and Candice certainly put 110% into all the events they touch. The next event coming up is the Lobster Crawl Craft Beer Festival in Bridgewater, and that's part of another event altogether. So, Rick, can you explain to us how that's going to work?
Yeah, so our first beer festival of the year is the Lobster Crawl Beer Festival in Bridgewater, and that event is part of the Nova Scotia Lobster Crawl Festival that happens throughout the South Shore of Nova Scotia, from Peggy's Cove to Barrington. And so a few years ago, when they started up this event, it was their second year of their event of the bigger festival, we decided to approach them about putting on a beer festival because we had done it in Yarmouth a few times very successfully. So we saw an opportunity there to kind of tag along and add something to their event that was really an anchor event for them. They had one anchor event in place, and they really could have used another, so we kind of stepped up to offer that, and it's been pretty successful so far. Done it twice now.
Well, COVID
kind of screwed things up a little bit, but first year we did it in their arena down there. A little bit of overkill in the venue and whatnot, but it did work out. It's very cold. Candice will attest to that one. We somehow hit the coldest week of the year for that festival, for the first beer festival, but that was okay. And the second year we moved it to the Best Western in Bridgewater, and much warmer. and they're great partners to work with, and very very willing to help us out and make things happen, and they're a big part of that community too. So we're back there this year, February 18th. And again, it's part of the Nova Scotia Lobster Crawl, and we should have about 15 or so breweries / other alcohol producers, and tickets are on sale and going good. So especially for really the first time we're back down there doing this after COVID. So we're excited to get back down there and do this.
So you're classifying it as a beer festival. Now, are these all craft beer vendors that are going to be there?
It's mostly craft beer vendors. We do have at least one cider producer, and at least one hard liquor producer as well, and a wine. So they a little bit of variety kind of helps drag in more of an audience. If you don't necessarily, you might have. Not everyone likes craft beer, and they want to try other things, but they don't necessarily want to come to a craft beer festival, and that's the only thing that's there. So having some options definitely helps bring in more people, more diverse group of people. Quite often you have a couple or a group of people that there's a few beer drinkers in the group, and there's a few that want something else, but if you don't have that something else, you won't get the whole group. So it certainly helps to have a little bit of variety.
I know when it comes to craft beer, I did some research on another podcast that we had done, and there's quite a few craft beer breweries within the province. Not as many distilleries, but again, that number's starting to creep up as well. I mean, certainly we've got Boat's Keg down in Pubnico. They have a very addictive salted caramel vodka, which we've all partaken in, I know. So with that in mind, how far are the vendors coming in from? Like, how big is the reach for this?
I think the furthest brewery that is confirmed is Tatamagouche. So, that's a good pull. We did reach out to Breton Brewing as well, who had attended in 2020. Just staffing prevented them from being able to attend this year. So, and we've got Heritage coming up from Yarmouth. So we've got a good reach of breweries representing from really across the province.
And both Skeg is coming from Pubnico to go down there too. So
good, good for them. I know they've traveled around quite a bit, and that makes life a lot easier for them being able to
and for
get their brand out.
Yeah, for these producers, it's all about marketing and getting their product in the hands of consumers and just making sure that they know about the product. So it's a win-win on both sides for them and for us as event producers.
So if somebody's interested in tickets, I guess there's a Facebook group that they can tap into and click on a link, because I know that you're doing the tickets through an online vendor, right?
Yeah, so they can folks can either search for Lobster Crawl Beer Festival on Facebook and find it that way, or showpass.com is the ticketing site, and just type in lobster or Lobster Crawl and it will come up and populate that event. So we are capping it this year at 200 guests, and we're a quarter of the way sold already with still some weeks to go. So we are hopeful to reach that 200 number, which would put us on par with 2020 numbers.
I noticed in the ticket packages there was one for a designated driver. That's a great addition and very proactive.
Yeah, it really speaks to what Rick had mentioned earlier. There's always that person in the group who might not be a drinker but wants to come out for the social of the evening, or the person who said, hey, you guys have a great time, I'm gonna drive this time, I'll take it for the team, and lets them come into the event. They receive 2 tokens upon entry, which gets them non-alcoholic beverages. So we do have kombucha, a producer coming, so they can sample some of that, or we'll have soda, water, that sort of thing, so they can come and be a part of the evening.
So what is included in the ticket pricing, and what kind of swag can the guests expect?
So as I mentioned, the designated driver gets those 2 tokens and entry into the event. The general admission gets entry into the event and a sampling glass, a 4-ounce sampling glass, and 8 tokens for samples for good at any of the vendors.
And the sampling glass is something you could take home after. Like that's
yours to keep.
Oh, okay, that's cool. And how big is the glass? 4 ounce?
It's a 5-ounce glass.
5-ounce glass
with 4-ounce.
With 4-ounce pours. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then there's a VIP pass as well, which gets you admission into the event an hour before your general admissions. So you get a little bit more time to do some sampling with fewer people in. You get that tasting glass. You get 12 tokens to go towards samples. And on your way out, you get a VIP gift. So this year, it is a Pilsner glass.
Excellent. Oh, well, that sounds like a great package. I mean, for anybody that wants to travel down. Now, because you're doing this at the Best Western, are they offering any kind of a room deal if you decide you want to come down for the event and stick around?
There are a limited number of rooms available. There's a fairly large soccer-based event there as well at the same time. So there are some rooms available. They're trying to make more available as we get closer here. But and there is a rate. I can't remember what they're doing, but. So the options there, if you want to travel in to check it out, there's definitely plenty of options there.
So is the craft beer festival the only thing that's going on there? Is there anything else that's tied in with it on that night?
On that night, it would be just the craft beer festival.
We do promote a after party at Firkenstein, one of our breweries that comes and is local to Bridgewater. So we encourage people to go down there, and it's where all the brewers show up to have a few wobbly pops and listen to some live music.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like a plan. But this factors into, hey, we're out of COVID, so to speak. I mean, I know COVID's still there, and there's still some stress involved with that. But people are getting out and about a little bit, and I think we saw that last summer. There were a lot of festivals on the go. We had Seafest had a full slate. We had the Coal Shed had a full slate. A lot of other events that we haven't had in a couple of years we're back on. I don't think anybody was tired of being out and about at all.
No.
But I know a lot of these are weather, specific and whatever. If Mother Nature rears her ugly head, is there a plan for that? Is there an alternate date?
There isn't an alternate date, and most people will make it work one way or the other. Yeah, it's kind of it is what it is. Like we've done this in very cold and blustery and snowy times. So people find their way one way or another. We are planning, and fingers crossed, but we'll have a shuttle service running too.
Sure.
That will drive you there and back. But yeah, we're definitely seeing more. I think over the summer we saw gradually more and more people willing to attend events and whatnot as we went along. Because we saw it right from the home show last year in Yarmouth, and then every event after that, it was like people were feeling more and more comfortable as we went along. So up until the curling event basically here, then people really didn't care at all about what was going on in our New Year's event. No one cared one little bit. So it's I think I think the general for most people, they're comfortable to go out and they want to be out doing these sorts of things again. So
and nothing like a good old kitchen party to bring people out on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
But when you look ahead, so this is obviously February, March, we're in the spring, as it were. What's on your slate for events coming up through the spring and into the summer?
Yeah, after the Lobster Crawl Craft Beer Festival, we slide kind of into April. We're hosting our first wedding showcase. So that's April 1st at the Raw Grand Convention Center. And yeah, no joke, April 1st.
Okay, I wasn't going there, but since you brought it up.
So we're pretty excited about that, putting on this showcase, and we've already got some great vendors and partners on board for that. Certainly as a venue itself, the Grand is very excited and supportive of this event. We've got vendors in the way of like baking cakes, catering, bartending, different venues throughout the Tri-Counties, and even as far as Liverpool. Yeah. Travel, beauty, menswear, florals, wedding coordination, and decor. So we're pretty excited about that event, and really our summers are wedding heavy now. So what we hear over and over is couples having a hard time finding all their different vendors. So being able to bring everyone under one roof and offer that to engaged couples, or even those who have been in a committed relationship for a long time. So we've got lots of plans for that, gifts for some of the attendees, presentations, and we do still have space for vendors to join. So if someone is in the wedding industry, they can certainly reach out, and we can make them part of that event. It's a one-day only event at the Grand. And just a little email, events@mileeast.com, and we'll get them hooked up with a registration form and a booth space at that.
Perfect. Now, you've done this one before, though, haven't you? You haven't done a wedding showcase before?
We haven't. There have been wedding showcases in Yarmouth, hosted from an out of the Tri-Counties vendor.
Gotcha.
So I think in this case, we're a part of the Tri-Counties, and to host it here in our home community is a good thing to do. So.
Yeah, and it's just something that hasn't actually been hosted in, even pre-COVID, it had been a couple of years. So, we were looking to get back to it and do it anyways. Grant had reached out about us doing one even before we really got into the wedding business, really. So, hopefully we'll get back. It's shaping up to be a pretty decent event so far. So.
Excellent.
And then we head straight into one of our long-standing events with the Yarmouth Spring Living Show.
Now, you guys have done the Spring Living Show a couple of times and then COVID hit. But what did you take away from the previous shows that you'll apply to this year's event?
Well, I think we're always looking for more ways to make it more interactive for participants or attendees. Make it more engaging, more things to do, more things to see, not just walking around booths, because there's only so long that's entertaining for. We want to keep people on site longer, spending more time in the area, in the venue, and ultimately spending more time at that point with vendors and checking things out when they have more stimulating things to do. Especially, we try to position it as a place where they can bring their kids, and there'll be actually things for them to do, so and keep them entertained and busy while they're doing business and hopefully spending money. So that's one of the big things.
Yeah, we've incorporated over the years, certainly the stage presentations on a variety of topics. It's just keeping with what is trendy right now and bringing in speakers that can speak well on that. And after the third year, we started incorporating the workshops. So people could have a hands-on activity to do. They register a workshop. It includes their admission to the show for the weekend. And we were just talking about, we've always hosted the workshop upstairs at the Mariner Center, kind of in its own space. And what about adding that to the showroom floor so you can see it happening, and maybe that would pique your interest in registering for that workshop, whether it be next time or if it was hosted, back to back, you could attend the next session. So just giving more exposure to that. Bringing it back last year was really important to us. We weren't able to do it for 2 years because of COVID, and it came back in a little bit smaller capacity than we had done the first 4 years. It was only one arena instead of two. And it's really our hope this year that to bring it back to the full spectrum.
I know for the hands-on stuff, a lot of people learn by doing. It's nice to, show up and listen to somebody talk about it, get a little slideshow and whatever, but to be able to put your hands to it and give it a shot and see, sure, I can go on YouTube and I can see a video on how to change my sink. But but I got to tell you, I'm going to get about halfway through that and it's going to be like, wait a minute, that's not what it looks like here. Now what do I do, right? Yeah. So it certainly makes sense to be able to do that. You're going to do a pierogi workshop?
Well, we've dabbled on that.
I don't know how cooking fits into your schedule, but
we've done cooking demos before.
We have done cooking demos on that stage before, and that would be a great thing to bring back as well. It allowed one of our vendors to showcase, a residential kitchen right on the stage. So that was great. So, early plans yet, but bringing in some of those new elements and interactive elements.
I didn't hear you say no to the pierogi workshop, but
it came up certainly in my memories on the pierogi fundraiser.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, is it time to start thinking about doing it round 2? So we'll see.
Yeah, the home show, like our experience last year, was certainly a different one than the year before, years in the past. With trying to bring it back. It's certainly not the size we wanted it, but it's certainly we'll get it there, and I think we'll see, based on just the vendor pickup so far this year, has been even greater than what we first started last year. So really hoping for a strong show and lots of things to see and do, and I think it'll be a good time for anyone who really wants to come out and take in the full show.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And then what are you on to after that?
After that, there are a couple other events on our radar through May, but nothing official yet. So we'll leave you curious on those.
Perfect.
But we are in the early planning stages of the Yarmouth Craft Beer Festival.
Excellent.
So June 10th is the slated date for that event at the Rod Grand Convention Center. Once again, very similar details to the lobster crawl. So we have the 3 different pass levels, your designated driver, general, and VIP, and kind of bringing those vendors under one roof. So that event was last hosted in 2019. So more details to come on that. And the same as the Lobster Crawl Beer Festival, we have a Facebook page for the Yarmouth Craft Beer Festival, and details will come out over there.
So then we are into the summer, and that screams Rib Fest again. Last year you seem to have solved the location challenges, and the weather was stellar. Are you looking forward to having it again?
With Yarmouth Rotary Club again, they're going to be they're the lead on this. We support them. So 100% full bore. We're in the planning stages for this. The Ribbers are excited to get back down here and do it again. July 7th to the 9th, the usual weekend it's here. Some people ask why we can't change dates, and because it conflicts with a few other things that happen elsewhere in Maritimes. It's just the rotation that it is, and but there's no reason to head off to another province for a country music festival. Yeah, you can always stay right in Yarmouth. We have some country artists coming too.
Well, that's good. That's good.
But yeah, this is going to be another big one for Rotary Club, and we're looking to make it even bigger have a bigger attendance than we did last year, little tweaks here and there. Really just looking to put together the same sort of program overall, but yeah, make sure everyone has a great time, and we make a bit of money for Rotary Club, and it gives back to the community in the best ways possible. So, yeah.
What sort of takeaways did you get from last year's event that you're going to apply into this year? I mean, you're always learning every time you do one of these things, I know.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of it is logistical, logistic stuff, or just the layout of the site. There's always little tweaks to happen there. Already in talks with the Ribbers about exactly little tweaks to the layout. As much as we do this, they do Ribfest a lot more too than us. So, and they know what works for them. So we do take their advice on these sorts of things about how to lay it out specifically for a Ribfest. There's some power issues that we were working on last time that will hopefully be sorted out this time. And just some other site specific things around where exactly stage is positioned and how it faces the rest of the center, and where the trailers for the storage are, and all this. It's all the back stuff that people don't necessarily notice or even care to how it all comes together, but it does make a big difference to us and the volunteers and our vendors that make it all happen. So that's one of the big things that we gotta focus on right now. But there's some security stuff we gotta deal with, and parking and whatnot. But it's all little things. In the big grand scheme of things, it's nothing that a consumer would probably even notice. And that's the goal. At the end of the day, when we're planning an event, is the things that go wrong, no one really even knows, other than the people intimately involved with it.
It's what I tell the guys when we're doing our video production. I said, if you make a mistake, just make it look like you meant for it to happen. Nobody will ever know the difference.
Yeah, exactly. But we are looking to expand on the number of vendors in addition to the Ribbers that we had. So we'll be looking to bring in just a few more food options probably. There is definitely space for more commercialized vendors to be there too, and probably engaging a little more on how we activate with sponsors and get their messages across as well. So. But we'll be in the same site beside the Mariner Center in the exhibition grounds. That worked great for us. It makes it real simple for infrastructure wise. It's all ready to go basically, and the exhibition is a great partner in helping make sure we have some of the things that we need, and in turn we help make sure they have the things that they need from us to put on the exhibition. So there's different partnerships that get made all around while we're doing these events, and it's you never know how you can help each other in the long run. So yeah, but we're looking forward to another good event.
You had some good entertainment last time around. I presume you're looking to do the same this time around.
Yeah, we'll have entertainment again, probably similar bands. We're gonna theme the days more or less the same. There'll probably be there will be one difference, but I'm gonna propose that we probably change the orientation of the stage a little bit to face outward to the crowd a little bit better. After some feedback and really seeing how it went, and try and turn it a little bit more entertainment focused a little bit into people were looking for that. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And so then what else have you got on the slate? Did I skip over anything? Because I skipped right to the Rib Fest, but
no, that's
went from beer to food. I mean, it's a logical path.
Yeah, that kind of summarizes really the next 6 months out. So in between there, we've got wedding bookings and coordination and that sort of thing. We do work with Barrington on an event in July as well, the Nova Scotia Marathon. So that is late July, and we'll be working with them.
Yeah, that's a big one, really. It's we started working with them last year. They're looking to professionalize the event a little bit and get some support, and so it's not a totally a municipal task. They still don't have necessarily the resources to do that. So they approached us and a couple others. We were the local bidders, really, so they went with us. And it's been a good partnership so far. We learned a lot last year about the event and how the committee works and what the municipality wants to see moving forward. So they've really given us the reins to run with it and to make it as big as it possibly can be. So I think we're going to see some good things for that event as we're able to market it a little differently, get it out to different running groups throughout North America, and professionalize the event overall a little bit. So, yeah. Yeah,
it really, I believe, when I looked into it, that it is the longest running marathon in Nova Scotia. It's in its 52nd year.
Wow.
So that alone speaks volumes. So I think there's a lot of potential in the growth of that event, even being in a rural community. I think we're going to see the numbers climb, and that's our hope, and really a key measure of the work we're doing as part of it.
Yeah.
I think as an area, we've broken the mold of rural, and I'm putting air quotes when I say that, in being able to handle stellar, top-notch events.
Yeah.
We certainly put our best foot forward for the World Junior A Challenge 11 years ago, and then we did it again the next year. We've done curling. We've done the Communities in Bloom Conference. We've done TMAC. Yeah. We've done a wide variety of these national conferences here in Yarmouth. I know it's a bit of a pain in the ass to get here, but once they're here, we can show everybody a good time.
And I always like to say that the highway goes both ways.
That's right.
So, a lot of people travel elsewhere for conferences and events.
That's right.
It's time to drive this way instead. And we're great hosts. Yarmouth, Acadian Shores, Barrington, Clare, great hosts. And, I think we're going to see that rural mindset kind of broken as we get towards the Congrès. We're looking at huge numbers for that.
Gonna be unreal.
When we have those numbers of hosting capabilities under the Yarmouth, Acadian Shores, Clare, Paramba belt, there's no reason to say, well, it's a rural place. Doesn't matter. We can host it just as well.
Yeah, and we've always
or better.
yeah,
Or better.
and we have that track record at this point of always shooting above our weight. Really, Communities of Bloom has never been to a smaller community than here,
That's right.
and we probably did it better than any of the larger communities above us. I think even for World Junior A, I don't think it had been to a smaller community, and
That's right.
This was the highest grossing event that they've ever had.
But it wasn't just us overachieving for the sake of overachieving.
No,
This
it's
is just
how
us.
we do it.
This is how we do things.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Time and time again, we just do it right, and the community wants to be involved, and they want to be here. Like we never have a problem getting volunteers. Never. It never.
Yeah.
Usually have too many. It's a lot of work managing volunteers, but we always have enough.
But it's a testament to us as a community getting behind
Absolutely.
these events and knowing that, hey, if we showcase the community as capable of being able to do these, then we can break that quote unquote rural mentality that some of the folks are have in their mindset.
Yeah,
we
sure.
can't go to Yarmouth. They're small. They're not going to be able to handle us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely we can.
And I think it comes willing to think outside the box is a big part of what makes these things work. Because, even for the Nova Scotia Marathon, before we got there, they had come up with the idea. They knew they had an accommodations issue. They have very few accommodations in that area. They had people staying all over the place. They came up with the idea of creating a temporary campgrounds in their baseball field right there. They can't that is the simplest idea possible, but it makes all the difference in the world.
Sure.
Especially with that market. Runners will camp all day long.
Yeah.
So that's who they are, for the most part. Candice is runner. She will not camp.
I'm
Not a camper.
But for the most part, that works for them, and that's just what it takes. And I think that's what it takes. That's why events work here. Is we do think outside the box, and we'll use any venue possible to make it work to the best of its abilities.
For those that might not have a sense of how much work goes into planning these types of events, there's a lot that goes into it.
Speaking back to Communities in Bloom, it was 3 days of conference activity and technical tours. It was a year of planning and
Essentially full time.
And that week of, leading into the event and those 3 days, it's 18 to 20-hour days. It's leaving, home before the sun comes up and crashing after midnight and really throwing that alarm clock by the end of the week. And it's a lot mentally, managing all the people, managing the venue, and just the logistics side of it is a lot. So when you come into an event,
you're seeing about 10% of what actually is going to happen.
It's like an iceberg.
Yeah.
You're only seeing that part above the water.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Rick will often say, we go to concerts or different events. He's the worst person to take to an event because he wants to see the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
He doesn't get as much enjoyment out of an event as he does in planning the event.
Yeah.
But that's the best part, and that's what I most look forward to when we look at getting the Lobster Crawl Craft Beer Festival back, is hearing the comments of the people who attend on how much they enjoyed attending an event. And that's what you do it for. You do it for the people who are coming in the door, and it just keeps your momentum going.
Just organizing and making sure you've got people in the right places at the right times. It is a huge aspect, I'm sure, of being able to make sure that the events are successful. I mean, yes, you've got volunteers. Yes, you've got lots of them. But, people get sick. something happens, family emergency. Now you got a gap.
It always
right?
comes up. Yeah.
And you obviously need that overlap in order for it to work. But I mean, some of the volunteers will take curling as a prime example. I mean, some of the volunteers were just drivers. Some of the volunteers were just video crew, and I'll put it that way. But as gaps show up, I'm sure you're able to take, listen, do you mind going over and doing that? And people will do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah, it was great. You were certainly on the receiving end, Quinn, of the many schedule revisions going into curling. But when we finally got to the event, as you mentioned, conflicts came up. Oh, I have to work that night. Oh, I'm not feeling well. But you had the people who were willing to step in, and who, when it's different looking at the event as this is coming to when you get there, and then you're caught up in the excitement, and it's, oh yeah, I'll pick up an extra shift. I want to stay anyway. Yeah. I had drivers who I couldn't get to go home. They had been driving for 8-10 hours, shuttling people through Yarmouth, taking them to to dinner somewhere, to the different venues. And I'd say, Joe, your shift's done. It's time to go. He's like, nah, I'm good. I'll stay.
Yeah. And you get people like Nick Hilton dragging the Saskatchewanian folks, I don't know if that's a real word, out to dumping day at 4:30 in the morning.
Candice did that with Ontario.
You did that too, yeah.
Myself, Nick, and Donna, one of our drivers, took teams out to see dumping day, and that added hours to an already long day.
Oh yes.
But what an experience for those individuals.
Sure.
And like I said, that's what you do it for. You do it for the people, and that gives them the stories that they're going to share that will ultimately bring people here.
Back.
They're going to come back. They're going to tell people about the area, about the experience they had, and drive more people here.
And again, this is what we do.
It's what we do.
On a normal basis, not an exceptional basis. So, I mean, when they go out and tell their friends and their friends come down, they're going to experience what their friends experienced. Yeah. Not just because there's an event going on, but because that's how we are.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, it's not that we do it necessarily doing it for those reasons. Like, we're not necessarily going after those big events because of we do it really well, or that, to make other people feel really great. We're doing it for economic reasons, but it's also, those are just the byproducts of what comes out of it. And, and we can plan an event and do all the work all day long and all leading up to it. But at the end of the day, those really big events, it's the volunteers that make it happen and make it really special. We can't do it without those big events. We can't do it without volunteers. It's and they make all the difference in the world. And
they keep coming back.
And they keep coming back. You can't pay for the experience that they provide to participants coming in, or I think I tallied up the number of volunteer hours, and I know I don't have them all in it for the curling event. It was over 2,500 hours in 7 days. Like
and that's not capturing the people who stayed longer.
Yeah, that's right.
Or right. that didn't even capture. I don't even think that captured the setup crew time in advance, or the hours spent by people after the fact helping clean stuff up and reorg and get things back in order. Yeah. And it does not include anyone who got paid in any format to be here. There's rink staff and that were here numerous hours as well, and
above and
beyond. There's our ice crew techs that came from away that they were here 20 hours a day for 2 weeks getting this done. It takes I'll say it because they're basically all Nova Scotians. They're they're one of us at this point. They get it and they love it too. So at the end of the day, it takes a lot of people to make this happen. But and there's only so much we can plan all day long. But We need people.
Well, that's right. And I mean, if you treat them like crap, they're not going to come back, right? So I mean, when we do these events, we're treating the volunteers with respect. I mean, the three tenets that Don Parnell used to run under, rest his soul, was, one, you have to respect people's time. They're giving their time up, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta give them credit for that. And two, you gotta have fun, right? Now, yes, it's work, but you gotta have fun with it, right? And the third thing is, of course, is if you're gonna keep them any length of time, you gotta feed them.
Yep.
Right, and I mean that's all the events that I've been to.
Yeah.
Usually there's some food, snacks, or whatever to go with it. Not that I couldn't afford to miss a few of those, mind you, but you got to have fun. And people have always been very respectful of my time.
Yeah, and I think when we were talking about Ribfest with our core little group, and it was one of the things that Paul brought up was, I think one of the main goals was make sure everyone, volunteers, ribbers, staff, and the attendees have fun.
That's right.
Let's make sure everyone has a great time and a great experience. And we did that. And it was key to making sure people keep coming back. It's, have an absolute blast one way or the other. And, empower them and make sure they can do the job and have some decision making power on their own. They're making them somewhat autonomous. They have a role to do. And they're all smart people. Let them do their job. They know how to get it done. It might not be exactly how you envisioned it, but that's fine. And feed them. Everyone loves food.
Food gets people places.
It's a pretty good draw. Yeah. It's a pretty good draw.
Yeah.
So Rick and Candice, great to chat with you. Appreciate your time as always. Looking forward to a great 2023. Just keep us in the loop as you got things coming up, and we'll do our best to help promote all those events for you.
For sure, and we appreciate the work that you and Gary are doing with this podcast and all your other efforts throughout the community as well. It's definitely needed, and it definitely helps us promote what we do, and it helps other groups get their message out too. So thank you for the work you do.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
I'm Gary Nickerson,
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
and this has been Outside My Window.